Hello everyone, welcome to Big Data Thoughts. Today we are going to talk about a storage that is very frequently used these days in cloud based solutions, which is object based storage. We are going to look into what an object based storage is, why did it come into existence, what are the benefits of using it, and also what are the different components and how a read or write happens when we talk about object based storage. First of all, let us talk about two very prominent storage architectures. One is SAN, the other is NAS. Now, what is a SAN? SAN is nothing but a storage area network. It is preferably used whenever we need high random IO as well as we need a lot of performance in terms of data throughput. So these are the two primary benefits that a SAN provides, and this is nothing but it is like a number of machines connected together in a network, but these machines are used as a storage. And the biggest USP of a SAN is throughput. Similarly, there is another storage architecture which is known as network attached storage. Now, which means that whenever there is a need for us to have more storage, what we can do is we can have this kind of an architecture where multiple nodes can access the data. Okay, the data it can be accessed by multiple nodes. It can be shared. The reason being the metadata is shared. That is why it is easy to use a network attached storage when we have needs where we want to scale the storage capacity that we have on our machine. So both of these things can be used, either a SAN or a NAS, but typically NAS will be used when we want to do file sharing across nodes. Now, the biggest benefit of using SAN is throughput, and the benefit of using NAS is file sharing. And primarily we can talk about three type of storages: file based storage, block based storage, and object based storage. Typically a file based storage is something that we can associate with a NAS or network attached storage. In a file based storage we would have hierarchical way of storing data. We can have folders, subfolders within which we can have a file, and that file can be accessed using a URL. So that is typically done in a file-based storage. So the lowest level of entity here is a file which is stored within a hierarchical structure within folders and subfolders, and every file can be reached at with a specific path. That includes the entire path to reach to that file, including all the folders and subfolders. And this we can associate with a network attached storage. I mean, we can think of network attached storage having the lowest level of storage as a file. The second type of storage is a block based storage, which means whatever data we want to store will be chunked into blocks. Each block will have a unique identifier by which the block can be accessed, and typically storage area networks or SANs, we can say the lowest unit of granularity in a SAN is a block. So the SANs will store typically data in a block based manner. These blocks, typically we will use block based storage for whenever we have requirements to store static kind of a data, static kind of files, because the data will be chunked and stored as blocks. The third type of storage is object based storage, and this is typically a storage which combines or does the best of both the worlds, SAN as well as NAS. If we combine the benefits of both, which is file sharing, scalability, as well as random IO and throughput, that will be known as a object based storage. It's a best of both the worlds, and the object storage architecture will combine both the key advantages, like I said, performance and file sharing. And if we see in today's world in the cloud computing, whether it is any of the cloud vendors, all the cloud vendors provide object based storage, like Amazon provides S3, Azure provides Blob storage. So these are all object based storage, and they are very well suited for unstructured type of data or wherever there is a need to have storage scaling, elasticity, and on demand we can scale the storage without hampering the performance. In those scenarios, object based storage are best suited. And when we talk about object-based storage, the lowest level of granularity or the basic building block of object storage is an object. According to IBM, if you look at the definition, what is an object storage? Then object storage can be referred to as object-based storage, and it is a type of a storage architecture which can handle large amounts of unstructured data. So with the advent of distributed system, with the advent of big data, going over building applications over cloud which have a huge amount of data and which is unstructured, the best suited storage will be a object based storage. So you must have heard very commonly that when people are using Amazon, they use S3 as their file system, and then they can use various kinds of processing technologies, but the base or the place where data is getting stored is S3, because we want to decouple our processing and our storage. So data is stored in S3 or data is stored in a blob storage in case of Azure, and we can use any mechanism to do the processing, whether it is glue, it is data flow, it is synapse or anything. The data is decoupled and stored into either a blob storage or S3, and then on top we can use any of the technologies. So those are object based. And the data which is stored into an object based storage does not conform or cannot be organized easily into traditional relational databases as rows and columns, because we are talking about a different kind of processing, huge amount of data and lot of unstructured data. In those cases, object based storage makes perfect sense. And in an object based storage, the basic building block is an object. So we can think about an object as a self-contained repository, because each object will have three things. One is data, one is metadata, and the third is a unique identifying ID. So every object will have an ID by which it can be referred to. It will have the actual data that we are storing, and it will have metadata about the object, and that metadata can be customizable based on how that object-based storage has been implemented. And now each of these objects, so with various cloud vendors, they may have limitations. Like S3 has a limitation of one object not being bigger than 5 terabytes, and there can be certain limitations, but ideally the basic building block is an object with the metadata, ID and data. Coming on to the components, when we look at architecture of object based storage, usually we are just using the object based storage by using APIs or going through the UI, but it is important to understand internally what are the components and how does the object storage system work. So that is where we want to discuss the components here. The first component is obviously an object, which means the basic building block which contains data, and it also has enough metadata so that the object can be self-managed. The second and an important thing here is object-based storage device, OSD. This is very, very important. Now, if you remember, when we used to store data on disk, so we had, let's say, one machine which had a disk attached to it, and we had to store some data into the disk. There was a disk drive, okay, which could store the data and which could actually scan the tracks and sectors on the disk. That was a disk drive which was handling that disk, we can say, or the brain of the disk. Similarly, OSD is the brain or the intelligent evolution of that disk drive, and which can store and serve objects. Okay, so it is responsible for putting the data or getting the data from an object based data storage. So that's the brain, the OSD or the object based storage device. Third component is the installable file system. Now, what is an installable file system? So there it is nothing but it integrates the compute nodes and accepts POSIX file system commands. So the file system typically that we use is a POSIX file system. It will have certain commands to fetch data, to read data, to list the data. So all those kind of commands it can accept from the OS and address the OSD directly. So we need an installable file system to create a object-based data storage, because this will be responsible to take the commands from the operating system, give it to the OSD, which can now go to the actual storage and fetch the objects. There will also be a metadata server. Why the metadata server is needed? The metadata server will store all the data, or rather all the metadata about the objects being created. Typically, a object-based storage will not have files and folders, subfolders. The structure that is there is known as containers. In S3, it is known as buckets, but typically in a general way, those are referred as containers. Like in file-based system, we call them folders, subfolders. Here we call them containers. So the OSDs will go and fetch the data from the containers, the actual objects, by referring to the metadata server and by the use of the OSDs. So these all components are interlinked, and when we talk about reading and writing, we will see how these operations are happening. The last component is the network fabric, which means this is the fabric which is tying up all the compute nodes to the OSDs and the metadata server, because there has to be some interaction between the metadata server, the OSD, and the actual nodes where the data is stored. The data is distributed across the nodes. So that glue is the network fabric. So if you look at all the components internally, how object-based storage works is it will have components like object, object-based storage device, installable file system, metadata server, and network fabric. Let us see how would a read operation happen. The write will also happen in a similar fashion. So first of all, whenever there is a read operation, the client will contact the metadata server. So when I say a client contacts a metadata server, ideally there is a compute node, because when you submit a read operation or a write operation, there will be a node to which that request will go. It will contact the metadata server via an RPC call. The metadata server has entire information about all the objects that are stored in the object data storage. That list of objects will be returned by the metadata server. Then that read request will be sent to the OSD. Like I said, object storage device is the brain of this whole system, or the one component which is actually running the show. So the read request will go to the OSD. The OSD will then actually fetch the data and help in the data transfer between client and the OSD. Now this is a very simplistic or high level view of this is happening, but essentially these components that we spoke about, this is how the read operation is happening. The request is coming, the request is going to this installable file system. Internally, this is how it will happen, which will translate this POSIX file system command from the OS and go to the OSD. The OSD will go and fetch the data. It will go to the metadata server. It will fetch the list of where the object is, and then it will go and fetch the object and return it back. So OSD is doing this work of fetching and returning back to the client, and how all of these people are connected is through the network fabric. So this is all about how the read operation is happening, and exactly in a similar way a write operation will happen in the reverse order. The object will be written, the metadata would be updated, and all of this will be again interacted through the OSD. Why I wanted to give an overview of the internal mechanism is so that we all understand how does the object data storage operate internally. For us, it's a very simple thing to do. We will just call APIs and read and write our data, or we'll go through the UI and do it. Now, what are the advantages of using object data store? First advantages, because there was a need to store a lot of data in unstructured one. This whole storage architecture came into existing, combining the benefits of both SAN and NAS type of architectures. It is very, very scalable. It has a reduced complexity because it is non-hierarchical. It is practically a flat architecture. There are no hierarchies of folders, subfolders, etc. We talk about containers. Containers are nothing but a way to store my object. There is a metadata, and it's a customizable metadata. The object metadata can be stored, and we can create retention policies for the object for the object. The metadata can be customized. Then the cost of this cost is comparatively lesser. If you look at the cost of any of these services offered, whether it is S3 or Blob storage, the cost is really, really less. So it is very widely used for archival, for backup, for storing data, and there are multiple life cycle policies or retention policies where you can say whether you want to store the data as hot or cold or archive, based on which the cost will vary. It is definitely cloud compatible because all the cloud vendors like Amazon, Azure, Google, they have come up with their own implementations of our object data store, and it is offered at a very cheap price for us to use. Okay, so this was all about object data storage. I hope this gives you an overview of what they are, what is the benefit, and how do they operate internally. Thanks a lot for listening in. Please like, share, and subscribe to the video to get more and more interesting videos. Thank you so much.